Hello and welcome to We the Students, a political discussion sponsored by Nauset Regional High School's AP U.S. Government and Politics program in collaboration with Nauset's video production class. Homework. Yes, homework. Whether we've all done it or not done it, it's a universal part of the high school experience. But is homework necessary? Is there a value to homework? Does homework advance academic success, or does it create stress and anxiety that may harm students? Teachers and students here at Nauset have been engaged in discussion about this very topic, and so today, We the Students addresses this controversial issue. I am your host, Francesca Galazzi, a senior here at Nauset and a veteran of the AP U.S. Government and Politics program. Just for the record, opinions expressed today belong to the panelists and are not the views of the high school or the school district. Now, let's meet our panel.
I'm Melissa Falenga.
I'm Heather Peterson.
I'm Sophie Christopher.
I'm Camille Liska.
I'm Abby Quanstrom.
I'm Lindsay Cahill.
Would you guys like to present opening statements?
Yeah, sure. All right. By students around the world, homework has been deemed a stressful task, although intensive researches in history has shown that homework is very important and beneficial for academic achievement. Not only just academic achievement, but homework helps with time management skills, practice on the topic that's being taught in class, as well as helping students develop strong study skills that will be useful for the rest of their lives. Currently, the homework policy at Nauset Regional High School states, students must regularly do intensive study at home to successfully complete high school. Most students can expect to study 15 to 20 hours per week at home. This policy has shown great success in helping the students of Nauset Regional High School reach high academic goals.
We believe that Nauset Regional High School should revise the homework policy because homework has negative health effects and oftentimes is an unnecessary waste of time.
Okay, so let's go back to the current policy that exists now at Nauset. If you could discuss it and give your opinion on why that specific policy should change or why not, and potentially what it might change to become.
Right now, the homework policy says that there should be 15 to 20 hours per week, and that's without taking higher level classes. So that's only with A-level classes. And so that calculates to 2 to 3 hours per night each day of the week. And right now the National PTA and the National Education Association says that students should be only doing 10 minutes of homework per night per grade level. So that means for us, since we're in 10th grade, that should be an hour and 40 minutes. So for Nauset, we represent 2 to 3 hours per night. And again, that's without taking higher level classes.
Yes, but it doesn't define what a week is, depending if it's a 5 or 7 day week. So yes, it's 2 to 4 hours per day, but you can divide that, so it'd be 30 to 1 hour per class. So that's not really a lot when you think about it, and homework has been linked to higher achievement per many studies. For example, Cooper et al. In 2006 said that homework and achievement relates to higher grades based on standardized tests.
But also, once homework surpasses a 90 to 100 minutes per day, scores start to decline again and not increase.
Well, I know that since we're in an AP class and people who choose to take AP and honors classes, homework is part of what you're signing up for when you're taking those classes. And since the AP exam is in May, we have a shorter amount of time to get through everything. And by doing homework, we're getting that curriculum through in that short amount of time. APs are an exception to this because they, are not in the homework policy for being 15 to 20 minutes, and APs entail a different amount of work. But a lot of the homework that is given is busy work, and that is proven to not be helpful at all. And homework is meant to be a supplemental teaching tool, not just work just based on the fact of giving work.
Well, I think homework can also, it can be deemed as busy work, but a lot helps you practice, and then also extension of the class, and just helps.
If we're already in school for 6 hours a day, then why would we need to go home and do more of it as busy work? Because I think that during the class period, which we have an hour and a half, we should be learning and producing the skills that you're saying that we are producing during our homework, when it should just be spent doing at school.
Well, in that hour and a half class, it's sometimes hard for a lot of kids to retain information and then also remember it and then be able to apply it on like a test later on. So I think to like go home and then practice what's learned in class and like study and go over, because by the time you get home you've probably forgotten a lot of the information you learned in class. Like you have hour and a half classes, that's a long time to sit and be able to take in all that information and then remember it and then apply it and use it in different ways. So I think homework helps with practice and then really understanding the concepts of what was taught in class that day.
Homework is different than studying, though. Studying is reviewing your information, where homework is a grade-based thing where you have to bring it in the next day. And should it just be up to the student to know their weaknesses and go back home and review that information, because the 15 to 20 minutes for Nauset doesn't even entail the time that you spend studying for quizzes or tests or just reviewing stuff because you were unsure during class.
Well, I believe that homework is studying. When you do homework, you're reinforcing. It's a reinforcement tool, and a lot of studies have shown that you get a better chance of retaining the information from doing your homework. So I see homework as a study tool, and I agree with you that there's a difference between busy work and the homework that has value, and there's like a big fine line between the quality of work and the quantity of what you have.
In a 2006 study they did, it showed that if you are given too much homework, it diminishes the effectiveness and can even be counterproductive and make you forget and confuse you on new concepts you've learned in class.
In a 2015 study known as et al., it showed that time spent on homework increases academic achievement, so if you spend more time, it actually increases your achievement.
Do you guys know for both of those studies how much time they were defining as either too much or the right amount of homework?
No, but in the study, it increased per grade level, so in middle school it increased, but high school had an even greater effect on academic achievement.
It didn't outline exact times, but I believe it did mention like the 1.5 to 2.5 hours per night.
Yeah, and lots of research has shown that doing over 2 hours of homework per night does not benefit high school students. So if you're doing 3 hours of homework per night, or say you're taking AP and honors classes, which I know all of us are, you're doing over that. So what about all this time that is just being wasted because you're not retaining this information anymore? You're just spending time on stuff you won't even remember.
Well, I know in a couple studies that I looked at that as a reinforcement tool is also repetition, and like the saying like practice makes better. It's seen as a repetition tool as well, and when you repeat something, like any skill, when you repeat it, you get better at it. So I think that you can retain the information better when you have that repetition.
And then
every
going
night.
home and practicing it, and like let's say in math you get like a worksheet and you go home and it might seem like busy work, but it's really kind of like helping you.
I get the example for math because that is something where you do need to practice, but what about the teachers that give, for example, 20 of the same kind of math problem instead of 3 of different types, where you can then go back in class and review and go from that instead of wasting your time doing 20 of those problems? Like, that doesn't make sense and just becomes a waste.
Yeah, I see that as busy work, and I agree with you. Like, busy work is not we're talking. Like, I don't want to talk about busy work. It's like the value of your homework is what matters. If it's a lot of homework, but the value is there, I see a benefit in that.
And that's where, on our side, we are saying that the high school should like revise the policy, as in the teachers should work on making sure that the homework isn't busy work and it's actually worth our time. And by doing that, then maybe it wouldn't take us, or like we should shorten the amount of time spent on it every night, and then it'll be more important and valuable.
I think a lot of teachers, like, they don't assign homework thinking that it's going to be busy work. I think that they have when they assign homework, that in their mind there's like a benefit for what they're doing, even though if you think it's busy work. Like if it's 20 problems, like for example in math, if it's 20 problems that are the same, like it's just getting you even more practice. Maybe by the end it's going to go faster because you understand it a little bit faster, so it should like not take you as long.
We're already in school for 6 hours a day, and is that enough? And should kids have the chance after school to explore other interests and develop in other ways, or simply relax in the way that adults often do after work?
Well, I think that, yeah, you are in school for 6 hours a day, and that's a really long time. But like we were saying earlier, it's hard to like retain a lot of that information. And if you like manage your time wisely, you can go home and you split like your homework from one night to the other and just manage it like wisely, then you should be able to go home, do like a sport that you play, go to other activities, have dinner with your family, do other things, and then be able to get your homework in. And like maybe sometimes it does take a little bit longer, but just work through it.
And to build on that, homework teaches you time management and skills that you're going to need to have later in life. And it prepares you for when you go off to college, you're going to need to be independent and responsible for what you're doing. So if you have like a busy life and you have sports and all that stuff, you're basically, when you do homework, you're making a schedule for yourself, and that will help you later in life.
I do agree that it helps with time management, but also kids tend to cut out family time and then some socializing time in order to get their homework done. And they also cut out sports and extracurriculars and saying that they don't have enough time to do it because of their workload. And then Stanford research shows like the more time you cut out of your schedule for basic needs, then you won't meet your developmental needs. And when you get to college, you might not be as well prepared as other students who have had time to socialize and spend time with their family and do clubs and travel places with clubs.
Well, maybe if they're spending a lot of time on homework, I mean everyone does that, but it could be, or they're not able to go like to dinner with their family or something, or to have family time. It's because they're just like not managing their time wisely and not splitting it up between, like we have an A and a B day, so if you're assigned homework on an A day, get it done that day. If it's a long assignment, like a 2-hour assignment, do 1 hour on one night and then another hour on the next night, and kind of split up, and like so you're still able to.
Okay, well, say it is a long assignment, you still do have 4 classes. So if that's an hour for one class, what about the other, or 2 hours for that one class, and you split it up into 2 days, what about the 3 other classes you have in that day?
And building off of that, that would make the time that you spend on your homework even longer, which causes you to stay up later at night. So a lot of the reasons why students may not be able to pay attention as well at school and retain the information during their class is because they're staying up too late and having the unneeded stress of the homework.
Well, I feel like a big part of that is procrastination. I know I'm guilty of it myself, and probably a lot of people are. It's I procrastinate a lot, and I procrastinate getting my homework done, and that advances the time a lot. So it takes a lot more time to get my homework done because I procrastinate.
On top of the procrastination though, also like a lot of kids, they're staying after school doing sports or like their clubs. So it's not just procrastination.
Yeah, and then
they're spending their time like doing other things.
For me, I know since I'm a school choice student, I still have to drive home a half an hour later, so my practice gets out at 5:30, then I get home at 6, and then I still have my 3 hours of homework a night, so that's already 9, and we're taking out the time where I eat dinner with my family and do other things. I mean, not everyone right when they get home wants to spend 3+ hours doing homework after they just came home and they're tired from sports and school.
I agree that there needs to be a balance between what we have now but none is not an option. So I think it should be like a conversation between the students, the teachers, the parents, and everyone in the community. But the goal is to receive academic achievements while having that time, like you said, for family and your own interests. But eliminating all is not a solution. And if we can find a balance, that's the goal. But again, it's just a reinforcement tool, and if we don't have it, I feel like the studies would show that the grades would go down and GPAs and stuff like that.
On that point, and talking about new homework policies or potential solutions to the problem, when you guys were thinking about both sides, what did you think about in terms of how should Nauset redefine their policy if they should, and what would that expectation be like? Would it be different for different levels of classes, and is that fair?
I don't think that Nauset should have a blanket policy. I mean, every class you take is different and every student learns differently, which has been proven in many cases. So I think it really should just be up to the teacher, but I think the teachers need to get together and figure out a way for them to be able to balance the workload of a student.
Yeah, that's true. But the homework policy that we have now, it is like a lot of Nauset students have had high academic achievement goals, and a lot have gone to Ivy League schools and like done really good things. So with the homework policy that we have, so obviously something is kind of working with it if there's a lot, and we're like a good school academic wise, so.
But
Even-
is that just based on the homework, or is it based on like what students do at the school?
Based on the homework too, because they go home and study, or they go home and really work hard on their homework, and they go home and study so that they're well prepared for the test.
And although it may be producing results that the high school loves to see, 56% of students say that homework is their primary source of stress. And then if a child or multiple children in a family are feeling stressed from homework, it can lead to full family stress.
Well, there's a study by this professor named Harris Cooper, who is a physiology professor at the Duke University. And he did a study and he found a positive correlation between homework and a student's achievement. And his report noted that homework improves study habits and even the attitudes towards school, their self-discipline, and their independent problem-solving skills. So I feel, personally, I feel that the benefits of homework overrule what stress I get from it, because I feel like that stress will benefit me later in life when I need it.
I also had a study done by Harris Cooper, and he said that kids who are assigned homework in middle and high school actually score somewhat better on standardized tests, but then kids who do 60 to 90 minutes of homework in middle school and more than 2 hours in high school end up scoring worse on the standardized tests. So I think that doing more than 2 hours of homework per night shouldn't be necessary. It should be less than that and actually be worth our time.
Well, then again, it depends on what classes you're taking and what kind of student you are, because if you choose to do AP and honors classes, you're agreeing, that's part of the deal when you go into those classes, you're agreeing to do that work and put in the time at home as well.
And also, should all this homework, which might buy you 2 to 3 points on a test, is that worth the reductions in health? Because when students were surveyed, they were asked whether they experience health issues such as headaches, exhaustion, sleep deprivation, weight loss, and stomach problems, which are common between students nowadays, and homework is seen as the primary stressor.
I think it kind of just goes back to time management, because like you said earlier about like procrastination, like everyone does it. And if you're managing your time wisely, like so you have a sport, you get home at 6 o'clock, and then you do have a lot of homework, but so maybe you do have to stay up until 10, but that's not like even that late. You can still get a full night's sleep on that. And
I looked up on the Washington Post. Another key thing of procrastination is screen time, which has become a big thing in our society. On school nights, the student spends an average of 3 to 4 hours on a screen, and when school isn't in session or like on the weekends, it doubles up to 7 to 8 hours. So I feel like that's another huge problem.
In that study,
Oh, go ahead.
in that study, does that contribute to being on your computer? Because I know me personally, I spend most of my time for homework on my computer. So does that screen time entail doing homework?
just for social media,
And also,
TV, Netflix, YouTube.
Like big homework pushes, like there were big concerns in like the early 1900s, 1940s, and 1980s. And back then, most children didn't have smartphones like we do now, and they still had the same stress that we are experiencing.
Yeah, so the University of Michigan found that homework has been increasing since 1980, and obviously not as many people had phones then. And since 1981, the amount of kids spent like playing sports has decreased for everyone from ages like 6 to 17.
Earlier, someone mentioned the idea of quality versus quantity when it comes to homework, and I've heard you guys mention a lot emphasizing time, like the time that a student spends doing homework, and that is definitely something that is pretty much how Nauset defines homework, right? It's like a certain hours or minutes or whatever it is for a class. So when you were looking at a new policy or just like thinking about homework in general, do you think that homework should be continued to be defined by the time that you're spent doing it, or should there be another way to qualify assignments?
I don't think it should be defined as the time, because it depends on the student. I mean, one student could spend a half an hour on homework while it takes another an hour and a half. So I don't think that's fair in a way to qualify it as time.
Yeah, in 2010, Kathy Verrott, who is a researcher, outlined 5 major components of homework, and that it should serve purpose, should be efficient, the child should have ownership to the homework and feel somehow connected to it and have the motivation to do it, and the homework should just all around like inspire them to do better in school.
I think it does, like with the purpose, a lot of homework has purpose. I mean, I know in our AP government class, we learn most of our stuff like not like by ourselves, but technically, but you know, we are doing our own readings at home, and that prepares us for class and to take notes and to ask questions during class. And I mean, that is kind of specific towards an AP class, but like in my honors class, my biology one, we still take notes at night instead of doing it in class, or to prepare us for like the next day in class.
So what do you guys think that homework, like the homework policy, should be based off of? Should it be based off of time, or do you guys also think it should be like quality?
I think it should be a discussion between the teacher and the class that you're going into, and you should know what you're getting into before you go into that class. So I believe it should be based on the class, but I don't think lessening the homework will have a lot of benefits other than like mental health. But specifically for me and a couple other people, I just feel like what we have now is should stay, because I feel like the benefits are, again, greater than anything else.
So the benefits are greater than your mental health?
Well, I'm not saying exactly that, but I just think that if we get rid of the procrastination and just have a conversation between your teacher and other things.
I think
Well,
sorry, you know, you go.
Well, what are you going to do when you have a real life job? You're not going to be exactly say, oh, this is too much, I can't do it. You have to have that done by a deadline, so.
If you have, and saying you do have a real life job, we've seen that many adults come home and they're able to relax from their job after not spend another 4 hours doing it, and then having to go back the same day to do that however long job and coming back
And
to the
another
house.
thing is you have a choice of like what job you want to pursue. So it's probably something that you're a lot more interested in, and you're making money off of it, so you're more motivated to do it.
Well, I think a lot of adults aren't really interested in their job. I think they're kind of like forced into a lot of jobs. I mean, I don't really know that for sure,
Yeah.
but I think, but I think a lot of it's kind of, I don't know.
The job industry is a very competitive area, and so is school. So I feel like if you get that sense of the workload that you have in school now, in college it's just going to get greater as soon as you move up. You see that as you go from elementary school to middle school to high school, and that workload increases, so does your responsibility, and so does your time management, all those skills that you get from doing homework.
I agree that like you should have a workload and you should have to manage it and everything, and that like the colleges want to see that you're doing a lot of work and everything, but a lot of things that colleges also look at are like test scores and how you did on AP exams. And one AP bio teacher worked with the Challenge Success Experimental Group, and the first year he cut his homework by a third and the test scores stayed the same on the AP exam. And then the next year he cut his homework load in half and the test scores still stayed the same. So he reduced his homework rate and still put his kids in good colleges with good test scores.
One other discussion I want to get into before we're over is what about the people who have to have jobs after school, like people who have to support their family and work after school in order to get money. It's so much of a disadvantage to them from taking higher level classes because they have to then go home and do that work where they wouldn't have the time to because they are working.
Well, that's the same as like playing a sport or doing like other things outside of school. I mean, yeah, they're working, but it's still like the same time frame.
Sports are a choice, though. Having a job to support your family is not your choice. That's your financial situation.
Also, to build off of that, a study by educationnext.org found that 21% who live in poverty, 5 to 17 years old, which is about 11 million students, found that homework helps to narrow the achievement gap in schools.
41% of students now attending UCLA spent 6+ hours working per week per pay. So that's almost 50% of the population that is working. So, and
But
that,
that's in a college.
Yeah.
That's
No,
not
it's
in
not
high
high
school.
It was
it was in
it
high
was
school.
conducted in UCLA, but
Oh,
they were
high
being
school.
asked about their senior year, and also I think it was 41% said they spent time working.
Yep.
And then it was 38.4% that said they spent time studying and doing homework. And so it showed that more students spent time doing jobs for pay than doing their homework.
Well, are they working after school or working on the weekends? Because, like, I think a lot of students, even now here, work on the weekends, and that's like 6 hours. But that's, I mean, it is taking that time out of your weekend, but you're also choosing to do that.
Melissa brought up earlier that the week in the homework policy wasn't defined, like it didn't say a 5-day week or 7-day week. So also, if it is extended to 7 days, then you do have responsibilities to study over the weekend, and if you are working over the weekend, that still takes away time from the work.
But you still have more hours in the day, too. If you're working 6 hours in the morning, you still have time in the afternoon from like 1 to 8 to get all that homework done. So
What about the people who do have to work after school, though? Because that is, say you, after school, you work a 5-hour shift, so now you're already at 8 o'clock, and then you get home and have to do your 3+ hours of homework, and if you want to take higher level classes, you'll then go up to maybe 4. Is that fair when it's not their choice, working or not?
I think that there's some laws, I'm not positive, but that you can't work after school for a certain amount of time, or like work in a week during a school week. I think you can only work 20 hours if you're in school, like as a high school student. So
Okay, so 20 divided by 5 would be 4 hours.
4 hours, yeah, but you can put it on the weekend or something like that. Or I think there's a limit of how much you can work after school.
Whose responsibility do you think it should be in terms of extracurricular activities when we're talking about redefining the homework policy? Do you think that it's acceptable? Like, should all students have the same amount of homework, or if you have like an outside commitment, like a sport or a job or something like that, that takes up a significant amount of time outside of school, is it appropriate for a student to go to a teacher and explain their situation and possibly have a reduction in homework? Is that fair to other students in their class?
Yes, it's fair. They have other things that are taking away.
As long as they're eventually turning it in and they're just getting an extension, I think it's fair.
I think that's fair as long as you don't do it every time. Like, everyone has a busy schedule, everyone has a busy life, everyone has something going on that like people don't know about, and as long as it doesn't continue to happen every week, then maybe go to a lower level class. But if you can handle it and it doesn't like affect you too much, then I think you should push through it because the
What about the students who are able to take a higher level class, like are smart enough to, but are disadvantaged because they don't have time for the homework? Should they still not be able to get that better knowledge?
Well, I think part of going to a higher level class or being able to smart enough to that is you're smart enough to manage your time, and you're smart enough to have those skills and responsibility to get it done.
Does either side have a closing statement or final statement they would like to make?
I would just say, like, to overcapitalize, I believe that homework should be a broader conversation between teachers, students, parents, and the community, with the goal to advance academic achievement, but also like allowing time for your own interests, your family, and your well-being. We need to get together to find a balance, but eliminating all homework is not an option.
We believe that eliminating homework should not be the new policy, but we do think it should be reduced either slightly or greatly because of the time it puts can cause like the stress in the students.
Unfortunately, we're just about out of time, so we'll have to hold our discussion there. We thank Nauset High School's television production class and the Lower Cape TV for making this valuable experience possible for all of us. That concludes another segment of We the Students, a political discussion sponsored by Nauset Regional High School's AP US Government and Politics program. I'm Francesca Galazzi. Thank you for watching.